Sangye Shedon Sangye Chono Lojan Jobado Dane Yesu Sangye Jesu Yebe Sanan Yendrola Sangye Drobo Jo Sangye Shedon Sangye Chono Chanjo Bado Dane Yesu Zedage Jesu Yebe Rola Benjir Sangye Roba Jo Sangye Shwedan Sogye Chanjo Bado Dane Jasu Jidage Jinso Gebe Rola Benjir Sangye Roba Tene da Tomaria da Guangzhou Delishuwa da Chepji do and the Chashin Molodoma Jukdum Shushawachi. No, come on. Chashin Molam Jukdum Shuchawachi Shumacho Rangsani Mudushush.
So, today being the last evening of the teaching, and so His Holiness will just conclude the teaching on the Mahamudra prayer of aspiration.
Da Delia da Kasan Shudusana, da Chumegi Gomdun Yamsulember Delia, Gomdun Yamsulember Delia, Dorden Geshe Ni Yavche. And then Dorden but the shoes machine, and you would give her Chevalea. 는 동화지 대양 담보 나와 심기 넘주인 바라 타지 니버디 semran shime ba yin ba tela tene sumbadi an nang dong sunju be do nyamso le ta tende ji sung yu ye be du sa na thomar nawa sim ji nam ju yin ba ji ta jia de shuro ga ji yo li.
So, in the actual practice of the meditation, there being the classification of the the explanation in essential explanation or in brief, as well as the more detailed explanation. Now, concerning the more detailed explanation, that is from the point of understanding how all apparent phenomena is a manifestation of mind, to understand that, and then the nature of the fundamental nature of mind is emptiness, and gaining certainty in that understanding, and through that then the that all that apparent phenomena and emptiness is inseparable, and so in this way should be understood.
다 델레야 도마 나와 탐지 심기 남주 다 제베들이야 예만요 라나 유도 추머리 왕게르리 다도 추 인지와게 시베랑도 겸머리 추베 제다르 쳐봐쇼 제 다디 가르송고레스나 아네 다 간다 응외된 거 왕도 샤베이나 군주 근능수 쇼된 게 왕도 샤베이나 다 전담 춘이 예매 다디 도그베 임바 템브레 드니 두스타나 다 토마지 군주 근능수 에다 탐제 아네 가쇼다 심지 넘주 임바 템발라 다 도스 디스 슈구멘로.
So initially, in ascertaining as to how all apparent phenomena is manifestation of the mind, is pointed out by in the 10th verse, where it said that we mistake self-appearance, which has never existed, to be an object. Under ignorance power, we mistake self-awareness to be a self. Under the power of dualistic fixation, we wander in the expanse of samsara. May we get to the bottom of ignorance and delusion. So, an outline in terms of how all apparent phenomena is nothing other than manifestation of the mind, and so what is being pointed out clearly is from the point of view of relative truth, but beneath it the sense of absolute truth is to be appreciated. So along the line of how that from the relative truth point of view, all apparent phenomena is nothing other than the manifestation of mind. So maybe some explanation along this line.
다 나와 탐지 세미 수야죠. 다 세미 수야지. 나와 탐지 네 세미 수야디 장라 가나와 탐지 세미 수고요 말했어.
So when we say that all the apparent manifestations are mind,
rāna kāna wā tamji sē mārēs.
And it does not mean to say everything that appears to you is mind.
Tā kāntā ngā rāñi pātā yā bē kī kyū tsū kēsā tāyé. Tā tīndē yīmbī nā bē kārshū rā jī rāna kāna wā tam jī bē sēm rū chā yu ndū sā nē jī kārshū ngā rā nā wē bē phūmbā tē kārshū rā tā jī sēm ngā rā nā wē bē nā bē rāna nā wē phūmbā sēm marba rāna nā wē kārshā tī tā bē nā kānsā rū tī bē nā ngū rū sēn tō tē sēm tīndē mārēs tīndē nā khuāndē shīchā lā yā shība gyūndē kānsā chīk mā tō mē tā yu gyōng yā rēs.
So, for instance, along the line of the second point is that if all appearances are mind, then the vase should be mind. And then if Zolan is using me as a reference, that if all appearances are mind, then Ngudrupting also should be your mind. And so, then if you got that far, then you violate the truth of relativity, relative truth.
Dine yusanan 나와데 탐제 네 셈이 사와마이 나와데 탐제 셈이 나와 셈기 춘주 암 지금 셈기 가수에 넘버르지 넘버를 순거라서.
So all appearances are manifestations of mind, that the mind can project in such ways, for that matter.
드네데 지당다 상계발이야 주도마와 시사셔봐 주도마와 소소소리야지 된데게지 남밤지 남반 적당래야 나와 남반된 적당래야 민자와 모여레스 니네디 시에마고치
and
능주 어다 데르주
based on how the world, how we perceive phenomena, and that in accordance with the Buddhist tradition, there are 4 categories of, views, and based on different levels of perceptions, or that how it manifests in terms of to the mind. But that let's not go into the details of such.
드네 뉴스는 간다량 차게 침부기 금들이야 아니면 최담지 차게 침부라 라다와 최담지 차게 침부게 다바 순두산에 아니 가르순고르스나 도나지 나와는데다 담지 랑게 셈남 랑게 셈게 나와 좀 봐. 대야지 나라소리야 능수르디 지 유소수 랑외네 베지 주바르지 근데 피네 주의지 가서에 제타데 셈다 제타데 여러분 피네 주 나용구여 능게 와르데냐 되라 안에 랑게 셈게 나와라 만데버니 뉴스안에 안에 최탐제 정시 이모두바사르보다 최탐제 동번이 있어야디 안에 파 가서지 민점 다점 다보점 이바 인장 and now I have some good now in but the chondela teba in but
so from the standpoint of Mahamudra, and that is to say that all knowable phenomena and all apparent objects are pervaded by the reality of Mahamudra, which is to say that everything is mind's own manifestation. And to say that everything else is mind's manifestation again should not be misconstrued or misunderstood, saying the object tells the mind, sort of reports to the mind as to what it is, but more the mind labeling what it is that one has the notion that one is perceiving. So from that what the mind has therefore conceived to be. So from that point of view, the whole thinking along the line of how the nature of all things are non-existent or insubstantial, and how the nature of all things lack inherent substantiality, and the nature of all things are emptiness from that point of view. And just simply as a matter of reference, as a matter of sort of interdependent label, that existing.
다 드네 인두산에 다 텔레야 다 나와 섬게 나와랑 sem나 임바 텔레야 아니고 가수라지 망어저 베차리야 냉가로 가셔지 용디 요래 다 텔레야 벤디나 냉가 가시여 남 지슈이미나 다 계시 베라 정규 뒤베 베나 랑가 나한데바 치료 가서 나한데바 되게 랑게 생게 나와잠 사람도 랑게 sem나 임비나 아니 대대비다지 가서 랑게 sem래야 나한데바 치료 유다도 통대베기 아니 유들래야 아니 차단 걸로 제르 말아봤어 차단 제르 말아봤어 그냥 아주 듣더디 아주 베라지 답을 소소 년도 통유 년도 나요 두산에 텔레야 샤바기 요래 다 나요 두산 텔레야 당와기 요래 아니 차당 로제 되게 이미 그런 거 샤바는 신 아니 디 소소 생가 나와서 이비나 텔레야 차당 그랬게 그랬어 아니 소소 가서 차당 그랬게 그랬어 두산에 다 텔레야 아니 차당 로제와 riboye gyunzero da chadang lo je tegres karresana ene pena azu miduba gombe nejor yorba miduba gombe nejor den du sane ene rang de lu da jige garsoji kin lu ajanji bu sebada ani kin ru la sobe den je number chen du komyon du sane teleya yidu mingwen dushi jige yorba an da na se rang lai number la ya gomni de yong du sana ya yong dushi jige yorba da di sosu liya di sosu ji samdan de bri da rang liya de yu sana tele ya chadang lo ge wa ri ban xin da de ya ji sosu sem ge na wa zhen lo sosu sem gi ga shui da me ba zhen che ro da me ba zhen lo de ne ene sem거 조다발야 된지 차단 걸로 개와를 보는시 ene 치료유도 바 치료리야 신나게 매비나 랑거 sem거 나와 좀 ene 가서다 자다 년디 줄아야 ane 차단 개와를 레스다 레송이
So now in attempting to ascertain the fact that all apparent phenomena, everything is mind's manifestation, or to somewhat in showing it or pointing it out, then what comes into question is everything that appears is mind's manifestation, even though it may be seen as independently existing external objects of reference. So the question would be, if whatever arises, all apparent phenomena, is only mind's manifestation, then in that case, how would one have the emotions of desire and aversion towards what is nothing other than mind's manifestation, how it would be a source of arising of such conflict? And just as normally we have a notion that certain beings exist in reality as those intimate towards one, and so therefore attachment to them, and certain beings seen as distant and from one, therefore feelings of animosity. But these being just mind's manifestation, so how would one have desire or aversion towards such if they were just simply mind's manifestation? And so I said, yes, it is possible, and there is reason for that possibility. Even if it's only mind's manifestation, yet it could become the object of desire and aversion, just as when in the method of meditation, when you meditate, contemplate on the futility of samsaric objects, such as, for instance, one's own body, thinking in terms of what the body is basically made up of, its physical materiality, and then we go down to meditating, the body as a skeleton, for instance. And so at that point, yes, even though one is just visualizing one's own body in those terms, using it, and then one just some sense of disgust arising in the mind, or when one visualizes one's body in the form of some divinity or deity, and some kind of the admiration arising in the mind. So that is pertaining to one's own being in that particular manner, that being the mind's manifestation, one could also have the attitude of desire and aversion.
Tati kare sana ngaratul yadi yor pasha la ya denche miji pena ngazuru jigda ta zu gizda pena nguduse komama nguduse le ane pena di nge khole ngala ji nguduse ji nang gore dana sin pena zhi de bjile nguduse ji nang gore nguduse ni ta kada ko 가서 유지리야 안 가사니 더 통나 민자 용대로 지금 원래야 우르세 베미 또 가서 다지 야버스나데 아섭지 지금 원래야 지 두자르 나데베서 더니 용으로 와 다디 인도스탄에 다디 소소소소기 바자기 튀되네 아니 바자 세 인도스탄에 아니 그 가서 라소소기 통나리야 아니 우르세 지 통된게 수지 다 데르제샤 대 메나다 데르 자레 베나 답베데 레라버시면 돼 안지 란 데브샤 유스마야 텔랭에 메도 베르 샤비미나 다 메도 옹보테 에네 답바나 가사 주기 미주 에네 메도 옹보들이야 에네 데비미나 다 데버서 말베 다인도산에 미주부티 셈레야 지샤기 아니 메도디 자사 다다마 지고 지 퍼지셔마 Kansa so ya ane be medor number shade menro. Bene kansa dinan kansa jun dinan be mi shida abo me dinge jige. Ane dagen wangbo shida abo me karsoda. Medresa amda mi shida abo me dinge jige tong yu san wangbo tong go yor de bi ne wangbo ji kato da number di tez jige ko sebo me de ro. 야 미 야부 연계 니 다인 주산은 안 가도다 나버 세브로 난데 앞서 딱 한도 도나지 가사 주 뒤질이야 나버이냐 지 잡으러 지어 나한테 잡으러 지어야지 이나야 아니 자지 자다 뭐지고 배 유니 코랑 유티하는 시지 배 자지 자다 뭐지고 나요 말아
So how everything appears is
그런 거 디베이트 봐 유슈
no.
메도드만도 신나시면
How everything appears as mind's manifestation and is based on one's habitual outlook, and what a habitual tendency ripens, and that out of that outlook of the habitual tendency, so His Holiness was using me as an example, but maybe he said he'll change it just to save my skin. And so said maybe flower is a better example. And so he said, for instance, if 10 people were looking at the same one blue flower, and that the 10 people will not see the same one blue flower 100% in the same way. That each of the 10 people... No.
The CC the tomato salad, the one bill gets
No.
Give me check.
No.
That been Temata Jeru Cheja, and that been 70 should do this. That is all Tisha.
So, yes, again, seeing should not be understood just literally from the point of view of seeing with the eyes, but more from the point of view of how it manifests to one's mind. Of course, there are other circumstances that could factor in, nevertheless, but how it manifests to the mind, and how one's sort of mind, in that sense, sees that flower in terms of how good it is and so forth. Of course, the sight can factor in that somebody whose eyesight is not so good do not see the blue so clearly. Somebody whose eyesight is good can see the color blue vividly and so forth. So such circumstances can factor in, but nevertheless, talking in terms of how it manifests to the mind is dependent on the habitual tendencies that sort of primarily factor in. And so, based on that outlook, one sees or manifests to one.
Today, you say, "Ane, tanga tu ngobu nanga chablia, ngele ko migen of the ngobu ya migen ngobu che. Ane dagen, penalty tangi method shaving dagen that mi wampo summer that che. Ane tema dagen. Ane karsa, di jomru de den zomion to start and just assembly. She made on a number of nine group. And the day you sign at that,
So, the issue, for instance, we are talking about is that in order for the whatever object to become manifest, there is the factor of the support of the object, and that is seemingly in view, and the so-called the principal or individual factor, and that sees that object, that is the eye seeing the object, and the immediate factor, so-called the immediate factor, and then the mind reacting to principally and to what the reference that is seen. And so when these three factors or conditions come in, then come together, then the manifesting occurs.
다 간다 드네체 뉴스탄단 도나지 셈라 나와디 남밤 딘 다나로 남바데 마도베다 응숨르디 서마르베다 베나지 베나 야 여랑 베샤고 시서다 답시 민두지 베나 갈래야 응우두스리 나야르데 응우두스리 응네 마르베데 셈리야 계시 응알나 응우두스리다 응네 이바지 녜 나와디 응우두스리 응네 이나 응우두스리 디바사나 갈 디바고야 닝거 베랑 녜 나와데 녜 시규 뒤바라 녜 셈가 나와데 셈도 저지 제타데 메인자 아니 녜 나와라야 나외 아니 우두스리인데 우두스리 인디에나 우두스리 디버스도 사네 아니디 가서 더니지 다니 더니지도 교배 아니 시바디 뒤려야 데베 내가 바자샤네 어 디버미는 아닌 거야 근데 말했어 건 장난하지 나와도 마도 무슨 나요 말했어 Oh yeah.
So maybe I have to go back to the example of Muduptring, or that is so when, for instance, the Muduptring that manifests to me, so to my mind, is not who Muduptring is. Similar to who Nguduptring is, but not who actually is. Because if what manifests to my mind is who Nguduptring really is, then when Nguduptring does whatever, commits whatever unwholesome deeds, I will also experience the consequences of that unwholesome deed, because it is that saying that then extension of that same sort of stream of mind. And so that which appears is similar to what Muduptring is or might be.
Today in Justan T. Junsen Den and Dahwaleson. Dan the Johnson Robata. 가진 팔레도 사는 안다 소소리 안 나와네 미디디 민원에 매비체 심지디 심정원에 매비체 드리나 다가 주지 심정 탐정이 되는 심계야도 처음에도 왔다 심정 탐정의 제도 심계의 인도도 자체마도 심지 주매게 해라다 소소를 나한테 되네 심정원에 되는 말에 아니 심지 주마디 주셔도 사르주다 심진 장난하러 되기 제도 아니 심계들 초스게 믿어 왔다 펜토스 말봤으나 다 펜토루 지요아레스 펜토루의 랑외의 펜토루시다 생외의 펜토루시 니시하면로 랑외의 펜토루도 가르스나 어디 펜토루에서 가르스나 랑나 다 펜토루에서 년대 봐주시오
So when we go along this line, then one issue can come up, and that is, well, if everything is mind's manifestation, not real, if every body is mind's manifestation, not real people, not real animals, whatever, not real things, and so more like make-believe realities, then if that is so, what is the use of generating kindness, or generating mind of awakening towards beings who are not real, no, make-believe beings. And so potentially there being the possibility that question arising. And so the answer is yes, there is benefit indeed. Not only benefit, but there's ways in which it becomes beneficial for one, the individual, and involved, and then also ways that how it becomes beneficial to others.
Rangwe ne pepe gyuzen karasin tida ngana tsu nangwa nanshi ngana tsu le yaji ta yang ngudu sini da ngudu sini drabas nangyo yare nangwa nanshi ene ji nangwa tsu masi ta te ji yube rangwe ne ji chubara wam ta tuen tu chubara ji li yabe shene en tela be chakdangi ta ji chubadang ene ji chakdangi chubba nazo ji 제발 대내다 랭에 뭐 없어요 알았어 다 기시 랑게 라낭게 추바 타바 이나 라낭게 추바 타바 이나 다 라낭게 우주 시린데야 바 상게로 알았어 라낭게 추바서 라낭게 우주 시린 나와 나와 대야베 다도 알았어 라낭 우주 시린스라고 그러다 라낭 우주 시린 라낭 우주 시린 나와 대야바 다도 알아 최탐 정보로 잡아 장추바 인두스탄에 라낭 탐제 타바람장 바시는 다도스바 뉴루에 인두산에 라나가 추바 다 연두산에 상계요 알았어. 근데 미준센 때네 안에 심진도 나와디 기시다 라나 임비 준센 때 다당 알나게 베 무두스링 나와디 라나 임비 인자 안에 주반 다도 두버려 주어라마도 세나 임비나 안에 가져야지 라나가 주바 타네 단동이네 하고 이제 가져 나와도 우주들이 나와도 마다바 용식으로 봤다 이제 뭐 임비chen 아니 라나 임비 인상 아니 라나 그 주바 타베 급수 우주들이 가서지 나와대야베 가서 나와대야 타네 아니 상견 주요하레스 나도 랑원의 벤토수를 찍셔야면 줘
So again, using the same example that if Nguduptsring is one's mind's manifestation, and one's mind's manifestation meaning that it is workable either way, so if the mind's manifestation holds onto its sort of put the notion of reality into it. It's something real, something sort of fixed and concrete, and that also in a sort of negative context, manifesting in a negative context, then it will continuously perpetuate more that unwholesome habitual tendencies and the resulting more distorted outlook. Yet on the other hand, that if one can view the manifestation from a positive standpoint, and then that what is one's mind manifestation, and cultivating the pure outlook, the goodness of that manifestation, and the wholesome qualities, what have you, of that manifestation, that could lead towards the purification and sort of resulting into one's experience of pure outlook, and in connection with that reference. Because it's mind's manifestation, if the object by itself holds that truth, then the object will stay to be whatever it is. But since it's mind's manifestation, it could work either way. So in that way, that if one can bring a positive twist to it, then yes, this is how it can be beneficial for one. That this can turn into positive or pure outlook.
다 신앙에 depend 주로부터 라나 다나 아니 신앙라 탑에 나와 중어데 딘디기 주니 인스 다 베나 상게 좀 된데 그랑 다 라나 다스네 자도 그랑 가수지 가수지 니낭가 집에 다 시제 집에 조르데 니낭가 바자인 소르바 다 니낭가 바자도 봐 세네 주바도 세 용주산에 아니 라나라야 베지 가수지 추궁으로 주네 상게 신앙라야 아니지 상게 넘버 질이야 봐 가르쳐지 쳔비 게임에 상게가 넘버 질이야 나용고야래 된 나네 최유 홀로고하다 아니 가르쳐야지 뉴샬라야 람데엄발라서베 나와 나소시 나용고에 뉴산 디기 아니 신앙라야 신고라야 배 펜토 용고르스
Then how it benefits others is that if one has, through the transformation of one's mind's manifestation into whatever pure outlook, and then complete an enlightened outlook, then by the truth of interdependence, that all circumstances, by the truth of interdependence, also could be impacted in favorable ways, or in that same manner. In that, just as in the case of the Buddha experiencing complete awakening, which is to say that being completely free from all veils of conceptualities, and which is to say that becoming completely liberated of all the dualistic fixations or dualistic outlook. And if one is completely has severed dualistic outlooks and become liberated, then as far as one is concerned, one has experienced the complete enlightened outlook of Dharmakaya. And when one has experienced the enlightened outlook of Dharmakaya, and by the truth of interdependence, that others are seen from that point of sacred outlook, manifesting as enlightened ones or Buddhas, and adorned with whatever major and minor attributes, marks of enlightenment, and then through that the turning of the wheel of the teachings, benefiting beings. So again, by the truth of interdependence, that this experience of perfect enlightened outlook of one can be source of benefit to others.
다 관해서에 다들 좀 유슈아 다 들만인다. 다 니바 셈을 심해 봤다나 봐봤달래야. 니바 셈을 심해 봤다나 봐봐. 다 나와 탐지 셈이 버려서 다 셈데 가래서 다 셈디 지 데버 주버를 지 티고 응원에베 전도 주버를 지베선데 말했다. 여바마에 자외 자마에 매바마에 콘데고 간도마에 수주면 다랬음이 중이 또 버셔스. 다딩 아주 뒤균지 우마베 따와달라 봐봐. 최 탐지베 배 가르쳐 똥이도 떼라 봐야지 가르쳐 똥이 있어면 다 똥이 있으나 저것도 최 탐지 똥버 떼라 보고 와 봐. 다이나 겁들이야 조디 이제 셈려야 내를 누구 옆에 있는 셈함 셈지 추니함 셈 코랑가 돌아야 배 가서 다시 던 거. 다디야 미세를 잘 놓고 봐. 배나 주지 지당기 다 망부시는 오늘 저는 용서를 해다. 다 마셔 야, 대 마셔. 가르죠.
So then the next one is how the nature of the mind is non-existent, and then that the verse 11 and points to that fact, and it says, not, according to the translation, not something, it is not seen even by the Buddhas. Not nothing, it is the ground of all samsara and nirvana. This is not a contradiction, it is unity, the middle way. May we realize the mind's nature beyond extremes. And so, normally, when we lay the ground from Buddhist perspective, the view, we talk in terms of how the nature of all phenomena are emptiness, lacking the truth of existence and so forth, but nature of all phenomena are emptiness. But actually, the root of all appearances, all existence being that of the mind, so it makes sense to appreciate that how the fundamental nature of the mind lacks the truth of existence, how the fundamental nature of the mind is emptiness. So spelling that out is in a way more profound or particular way.
That Tongba Silvestan, that zero, that someone that Tongba Tilem, that zero some. That thing also somebody Tongba Silvestan, but I'm going to spot Taji Tang you san a best. That been a stem down Taji Tana door, that was same the condition about Taji Tang you san. And you can't be Dr. Stem Jeba, Ming Da Shavati, turn a condition to Domindo. Taji Tang you do san. I can't be do some nigger. Turn a same do some nigger. That's some do some money do any. Today, I bet can't remember the Karsoji. Today, you stand that money do that money, but men money bareta, you money bare. The same day, men money bareta, you money. Men money baresa, and that is the woman door. Some design your medicine to Kenzar Dodi. Did you? Some men did the day, Karsway. Dinjung now, Nazo, Gian, Char, they have the Karesana. That they have Komaju Senate and took me to what? Hako, Kane Hakomaju Sene, and the Karsa Be, Karsa Lula Be, Karsa, Purtu the Hako with the Jorota, Tisur Charota. That is that your mother is Latuacha, maybe Sushi. That your is Ladusan, only Taji Tan, turn or two to the diet, your mother. Today in this time, that is considered Lanada. That delay teach so soon Yamyon the Janet Shagware Madonga, the Shushian, the Gamindo, the Imbina, let Tambo Palaya, Chichena, you and a maniba res and this is the Yabo Mandroson. You and a maniba. You and a maniba said, take hands out the you get money is the Kanswarsana. What are the you and a money by the res, you and a money loot the Karesana? Penang to Jalar. You have a chair. You know, Jala, you have a coach, say on do Sane. Who you lose, called Jala or contagious. Jala, the Nelia, Zaya, Jala, the contagious, sub the contagious. And called be cut off contagious. Take it be Coaza and Mabachene, and it's a Chimina, Jala Nigmarwa. Tagana Shin Chene, and the day I got ready. You lose yours, go your ready, not you lose yours. You know, you look the Hamagoche. You look the Gomatsun. You look your tongue, the Hamago, didn't it? She go to the Sane. Chorang is some Nalolea. Yoba say to Sane, turn Kasuchi, turn to Chubarich, on it, Tang Jorba. To you, not just some Naloleaji, nuns of Nine, Koraji, Kasuchi. Dembarjin, Zindia, Tindicita, Yoba Jorba. That Tindicity Yoba Jingu, some similar Yoba taking 다 딘데기 여바지 자가 누사는 다지 땅 윤두사 우메리베 다지 땅 윤두사는 냐요 말다. 냐면도 다 민두슬라서. 오늘 샤비나 요레스 야 유루도 가라서는 유머도 낭신도 동동신도 낭. 다 딘데지게다 여바지 하다. 유루도 딘데지 하다. 유루 딘데지 여바 인자 다 딘데베 유루디 고 동바 동자 말에 강가메 대 말에베. 봐. 这里边找里面买不来啥的嘛的，这里的买不应当也嘛的是，但越不来是呢，没到底几多去了是吧？这大家我们是的把这把别东北别看说的出来是咱们这些，那就第几多去了，大家如果没得生活，我们也làm sao được？他这里的经济的大很多说了说，对。 telaya jizun shebe da ma jine gyurtu mardi yaba ngobor nawada meba tombe chuni ngo ye me rochi be deri shiri yemai. Thank you.
So now in terms of nature of mind being emptiness, what shall we say? It's like emptiness, nothing measurable, he's only saying zero, whatever point. But anyway, so what is being pointed out is that it is analysis worthy, that it deserves whatever degree of scrutiny. And generally we give a label, and we fall for that label. That label holds some kind of reality and the truth. And so that based on our clinging or fixation to the label, we are sort of chasing the truth of what we think it is. So here what is being encouraged is that we need to do a more discerning and sort of open analysis as to, in this regard, whether the mind exists in any measurable way and in any kind of visible reference point. And in analyzing, we will come to the conclusion, or we do come to the conclusion that it doesn't exist even in the forms of the minutest particle that could sort of exist independently. And so, since it doesn't even exist as at the minutest, in the form of the minutest measurable particle, then should we draw to the conclusion that it is, it doesn't exist. And so the question is, so we can't find it. So the question is it because there isn't anything to be found that we can't find, or even though there is something to be found, but just simply we have not managed to find it out? And so, if we draw the conclusion that, with the first one, the former, that it doesn't exist, and therefore we can't find it. We can't find what doesn't exist. And if we take that stand, then probably it could become problematic in that, while having said that, all phenomena manifest and arises. And so, we kind of say, yes, it doesn't exist, but when the lit incense is poked on your skin, then yes, actually it exists. It's kind of a little bit embarrassing. And so but on the other hand, to to posit that it exists, we can't find it. So in a way we are in a big dilemma. So given where we are at, maybe it's more in our interest to go along with, yes, it exists. And for the moment, even though we don't know what or how it exists, but maybe it would be more in our interest, because to say it the other way could be very strange. And now, when we go along with or positing that it exists, and then we need to know how, in what particular way that exists. Because we are talking about not something, normal in that sense. So, and even if we are like, for instance, looking for something, that whatever it is, we are looking for something that we need to find, that should be found. If we sort of randomly rush into looking for something that is to be found, when we have the slightest idea of what color it is that we are looking for, what shape, or what sort of it is made up of, that we have not the slightest sense, then looking for something that we have no idea of, and obviously wouldn't help. So we have to, in a sense, that given that, yes, we go along with that it exists, then how it exists. Now in pursuing that, if we go along with a belief, normally that we have, that something exists in this particular way, and if we are going to pursue that belief of what it is that exists, probably we are going to go astray. And so in this way, that we have to have some sense of how it exists. So, generally speaking, the way it exists is like that of mirage, like that of the reflection, and that while that manifesting, yet fundamentally emptiness, while emptiness, yet manifesting.
This is Nanga Tombe Pematas. Nanga Kotomba Rede, Quepen Toya Marista. Kotomba in the Dipen Toya Maris. And Dog Homo Colea, Dog Hormosamada, Dog Hawan Colea, Jora Tomba Chandrochis Laneco, Tomba Charochi Maris, dead. Pasban Rochi, Tomba Charochis and a Pingamanis. That did which dead, dear. Tang Yanni and Yeti Chishawan. How do I, Andy? Quadesung in Godi. Da Digeria, da Yimi, you may see at it, and them, da Din Sheba can't get somebody, Dimensia can't go. Rolling the between Yanda to get honey, never shows that. Didn't you understand that? That did the other Dinimande, Dinima do Coyazo, Dinidona Sankisan, Tamji Dini, make a Chigusana, shows that. Generally, Tandona, Conde Tamji Gibe, Zawa Somartan, the answer to the Zo the same share, the same Nanaja, Veseki Sem, Veseki Sem. The Vese Chunya, Veseki Semle Chung. Timia Veseki Semle Tim. That can the Conde Tamji, Jusis and Rando, who didn't be in Dusane, who did got about Tazu Chumbi Yimina, and Jikashaji. But there is mentor. Nazo Rawan, so Rawan, you ever seen Binani? What are you? We are saving on a pine number shuni, and you chugging in number shuna, Chodo. Ya, we are saying on a two down and drove to China, Chodo, Rawan Yungizina, Rawan Mengin Bina. What are you? We are saying on a pan dune beggar tuning on to Chabina, or Shiwanya de Combine, Togo. Ya, just down the Jig and what you that the Rango March of a Chenny, Riba. 고유에 다다 유시 디니마도 코에 자솔 코르솔다 디니 또 하나 상계 시남 탐제 디미디메 가 주니 군시 산에 리버쇼스 나야 셈나 또 예스미 또 예스나 추게랑 깨게사는 가제스 정도 탐제 셈나 줘버쇼스 다 되게 상문도 등이 찍으래 단 도나베 셈 동반이도 다 제래다 다 나도 순주고 단 디니마도 코에 자솔 코사 나도 순주도 다 제래 되리샤 뭐야 다이나 task. What's this?
Translation.
当然，别做出重大哎，顶底下这样被差不多发展要无度的，很好的缘起。
Very auspicious. Sounds like very auspicious.
OK， 他得了auspicious蛮学的。Please, please. Give some teaching, please. 啊，得行嘛，得行。
So, His Holiness was just going quite fast over the different
Not quite fast. Slow.
the verses, and then sort of came to the conclusion that all samsara and nirvana are nothing other than the manifestations of mind.
Yeah, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, come.
everything is. Yes, okay, sure. Yeah. And
다 들으면 이 책이 막 교수. 디인시자 관계가 보면 디인시자 관점 디인시자 관계 로르 디비 준비 안다 돈이 다는 게 버리 디마도 거기 디도 사실 탐지 군이 구시 사나 이거 쇼스 나서는 동의했어요. 어디 디바 제너리스디 디측 디직 교르다 이 슈딩 해라고 양다 돈이 다는 게 버리 쇼스야 디바 디바도 지 교르다 디인시자 관계 좀 하면 디민시자 관계가 봐 로르 디비 준기 되면 양다 돈이 다는 게 버리
so just as long as wanted me to read this to you. Nothing indicates it saying it is this. Nothing negates it saying it is not this. Beyond the intellect, dharmata is not composite. May we realize the perfect, ultimate truth.
다디 제래야 숨버디 동다 딘주 순주 민게와 되마들야 디니마도 거에 가서고 디니 동나 상계신 탐제 디인디메 춘이 군시 산에 리버쇼 사링에 등이 쉬는 시체네 다 간다 디데 셈사데 셈 그나네 야 조다 디 셈시도 차와디베 외세기 셈 외세 뉴메 셈다 외사외 뉴메 셈들야 네 콘데 탐제베 추시 세난다도 다디 차디 요레스 중야베 외세 뉴메 셈들레 중 팀양 왜 요새 뉴메 셈들라 마 팀니 가르쳐다 베르지 아주 신다가 마시네 베르 치와 봐도 디베 이번에 바로 군도 자주 또바도 망가네 그거 팀림 제네 베 군도 이 또바도 망가네 아니 외세기는 바 팀도 거봐 야 되네 술래 인도서 개와사도 레 인도사야 다나시고 그 외세기는 수 용거로 받다 되네 인도사네 다 라와 용게 지비나니 와다 저 외세 추기 공부를 봐 시. 야 되네 심정에 되는 야 주权 된대 자야 돼. 외세 심들 되는 중원에서 다라와 명계 지비나 와다 가서에 semmotrana ne wese ngala ba kharsoji kharsoji wese maburu jeje ndri semmotraje yore sangyaji ji chugu compagnie yore ta de ma jone ya wese ngane chuje ne ko la kwa ji yong yoro.
So again the following line not realizing this, we circle in the ocean of samsara, and if this is realized, Buddha is not elsewhere. Everything is this, there is nothing that is not this. May we know Dharmata exposing the all basis. So that everything arises from the clear light nature of the mind, and everything dissolves into the clear light nature of the mind. In the case of even ordinary beings, also the process of dying and going into the Bardo state is that process of all the gross the aggregates and dissolve and into the subtle state, and then into the essential nature of the clear light. And then when you also born again, that process from the clear light again, depending on whatever karma is accumulated, the different phases of grosser manifestations take place. In the case of someone who is has experienced complete freedom, that is enlightenment of Buddhahood, and into the sort of the womb of clear light, one dissolves and into the state of enlightenment, and out of that clear light and manifest towards the benefit of beings. And then if one does not have that realization of that freedom, that in the state of the Bardo, that being the potential nature of the clear light, and then that when everything is dissolved, and so-called the mother and child clear light uniting. So there is, even in the case of somebody who has not experienced complete freedom, there is possibility of liberation in that phase of the Bardo because of the particular circumstance.
다시 한번 시작. 나 디젤이야. 치제 이번에 되나 시래샤 나서로 동계선 주 계계선가 예 조도든 지설을 잡아 주사도 지고래샤. 전화.
And so what follows is along that line, and appearances are mind, emptiness is also mind, realization is mind. Delusion is our own mind too. Arisen, it's mind. Stopped, it's also mind. May we sever all misconceptions in the mind.
다디 삼려야 아니 공배 땡란 비수. 다 공배 땡란 비수들이야 측제 망부를 주용되도. 드레 유산 측제 망부대 나는 다 당보들이야 다 신에게 차네로 봐. 신에게 차네 다 신에게 차네 사람도 다보다야 노르덴지 제 르시소에 검제만에 탐에 두지 롱거마기 맞아 있는 말하면 심정 냠래 캐시 경우를 쇼스 딘 노르덴지 다디 이 가서 측제에 맞춰서 로마고 딘 노르덴에스 디 안다한테 럽지 안다디 정아바디 있어요 정아바디 정아바디 노르덴에스 검제 냠스 렌즈.
So what follows the few verses that follows is concerning in essence how to stabilize and how to get one's meditative training more anchored.
다들 계시에 아니 니바다 계시 차리요. 다 계시에 뒤나네 당부 신의 계시에 임베 신의.
And so first point out what the basic outline is, and then the more detailed outline, starting with, for instance, how to cultivate the Shine experience of meditation.
쇼로가 주양아바디 도르덴체 아니 쇼로가 주주바디 아니 신의 계시를 체 아니 쇼로가 주변바디 아니 라동기 수치레샤 라 주든 바다니 쇼브게 바데 라동기 and 게셰 수치.
The verse 15 is about the essential outline, and 16 is concerning the Shine, and 17 and 18 verses concerning how to understand the Lakdong aspect of meditation.
다들이 주산다 신의 꼴이야. 에미세다 가르에 슈아스게민도 그래서나 우마지 사실 신유야래라 다나신지 상어로지 메디테이션스 좀 마셔지 규여버지 인두산은 때려양에 망고시라 슈아스게민도 양에 잡으셔가지 지나 중국만 메디테이션지 지역대 라신시 한 초스게요. Today in Jusana, and Jorazuma Yevet Tanduni, Yato Yaza, Abunaronas.
So, concerning Shine meditation practice, there's nothing I should say here, and one is on other occasions I have explained, and also since all of you are very enthusiastic about practice of meditation and doing whatever aspects of Shine meditation practice and other meditation, and so if I add more to it, it could maybe only create more conflict or confusion. So just simply continue with what you have and increasing the further enhancement of the practices.
Tene Laton was Shavine, that Digolia, Laton di, Tame Semrayan, David, Tome Duni Sishilagerton. That the Uneji, Laton and Chod give it, Pabenyamsha is Menro. Pabenyamsha is she is Singolia, Energy, Kashoji, Nina Nuba Industane. I go to suggest Gayomar, the suggest use at the suggest loss as Gayomare. And on today, you stand that Pabe Nyamsha is she give a single Yeveta, Chuni Chitawashin. That did the air soon and use it. That did Chitawashin don't have to share to my Delamasa usual.
So now, as far as the Lakdong practice is concerned, that is talking about the absolute state of wisdom that the Arya beings rest in. And that is how that seeing, looking at the nature of the mind, which is not to be seen, and so forth. And so that is obviously something quite beyond all of us, and it's even not relevant to try to talk about it.
다디 슈들레야 카르시아도 사나 안 가장 곰 냠네 샤고레 카시시아 라샤 디마제 엔 슈고된 죽두르 제도 샤인다.
So for the conclusion, that few things about practice of meditation that I have left to talk about, I will mention those points and then we will conclude.
텔레야 카르도스나다 가자 슈베는 신다 곰게 다보 셴로임바다 곰게 퐁드 순데임바다 너데 슈스므제 다 텔레야 곰기 소 곰기 차라 템벌라 쳐와 인소네 다 곰게 베 차라 챙게 곰이 아버레도 당게에 소 중게르디 이 템바 인스.
So yesterday I was talking about how the keeper of the meditation is renunciation and should be anchored in renunciation, and how that to bring about more increasing improvement or enhancement of the meditation is the true authentic prayer or supplication. And so then the third one is what should guard the meditation is mindfulness or vigilance, and what should guard or sort of stand as sentinel in guarding the practice of the meditation, mindfulness.
Today, you stand at Temba the Shishin, she was a gauge of rest. Benaji Shine, you want to share in there, Karswaji, a Tembe Gansu, Mozuba Yimina, some Chingu you want to show in Yangayores. At the day, you stand at Temba Shishin is singles. Diambe Gom Jazz, the young, to some of the past the Yaji, Jogom Rechegalia, Karsudaji, the Karsan. And a Lunia Tatan of Chebecolia, and a Tensia of Tangache, and Tugu, and I just saw an area, Tensia Madamina, the Duomare. Chisi, be Shalot, the movie, the Chenju Sem that Anna Shinji in Chamni Soba, Tedala be Sem, Tedala be Shuam, Tedal be Nebe Gosu, and Teda medium bit number in one, Tamje, Chamba the Shinshingi, the worst imperchede. And a tengu parmache to Dangua, the Casimbares one. Tembe Gundi, Parmache, Dangua, the Casimbares.
So, the constantly guarding one's mind, one's meditation with mindfulness and with awareness, that is continuous alertness of mind is important. And even in the case of Shine meditation practice, it is pointed out with much emphasis that to protect the correctness of the goodness of the meditation, that must be guarded by mindfulness, or else it will become the meditation will that fall into the prey of dullness and mental dullness and agitation. So to guard it from, falling into that. At the same time, what is equally or more important is that when one is doing formal session of practice, at that time, the maintaining whatever proper posture of body and mindfulness and all of those applying. But once it comes to the post meditation and then losing the guard completely, and so that would be that wouldn't serve the purpose. And so in this way, that in order to give rise to continuous refinement of renunciation, the cultivation of devotion, loving kindness and compassion, mind of bodhicitta, in order for the continuous progress of them takes place, and that these cultivations that continue uninterrupted by whatever unwholesome obscurations and distractions, that continuously one must rely on the guard of mindfulness and the vigilance.
That detail, and that tangi gom yung ji sundwa, that gom yeleba di shabos mare. That jidang oma jen the gom yi tugzu tamja yisar, tugzu sen the gumare, in jigel. Tugzu silsan, jigba bombo shido sajuba, midi ben jingba bombo be, chabu shido serva, that gom in jingba bombo, jingba the garasan, and be tamja res. That is the chigemin was gumare. Chigemin leba chavos the kuyore. Leba jenguse. Tigare. Chige minute leba chabo leba jengu sab karare, chik hinar jomre. Da gansi da kurang the guru Kandar gom ge leba senata do gom ge takwa senata do be. That is true karsa be. Chabo chati karasana tamja deres. Gom chabo chi deati.
So, furthermore, that what can sustain the practice of the meditation is a resolve, a sense of commitment, and here, analogies are pointed out and said that like a strong sort of straight, neck. And so that's maybe an analogy that cultural, so whatever it is in a Western context, and like we talk about the head of meditation, or maybe there's something along the line of something to do with the brain. But whatever, the point is that what sustains the meditation is resolve or commitment, and so there should be also commitment in connection with the development of the practice of meditation.
Oh, too easy. Okay. That day I'm thinking, yeah, Karsula Daji, Girong, Dorong, Da Sangrong, Yanong, Da Karine, Negab, the Num Jinja Shunaya, Da Kandarji, Tu Tari Karsula Da, Be Koan de Pamotuna Yonsa Maresar, Tindegi, Sundrula, Tanglue, Gigu Mever. That Tindegi, Karsulaji, Tangarjum, Beji. 아다 안디 베데 아니 구규어 말다 기구메 버체네 에네 가르수에 준법에 베 가르수에 준바 베 가르수다 뉴그 도와를 집에 좋나 근데 가서 검사하고 차고 싶지베 못 휘니베 가르수에 윤진체도 그랬어
So
저 담자
that the way that this resolve for the commitment should manifest is under any and all circumstances, that during good times and difficult or challenging times and whatever in the course of ups and downs, that this is, viewing it as this is one's only chance to make it. This is the time, and so therefore that one is going to make this time, this chance, purposeful, and it's going to be sort of that the perseverance and the commitment is going to stain the tide of whatever, and like a straight line, that it won't bend, that it will stay like a string, it will stay taut. And so in this way, that at all times that commitment is consistent with the support of perseverance.
다 타마타마도 인다. 타마타마도 사람도 다 곰지 심은 미실을 주스. 다 곰지 심은 미실을 주. 다 도나 가르시네 마시나 곰지 심은 곰지베 자와데 근데지 거르잖아. 미시 상보지 거르. 미 상보지 샤오르스. 미 상보지 레야베 쥐고레스. 다데 미 상보지 쥐고레스 두잖아. 가르잖아. 아니 베지기 토마 라메 군들이야 잘. 안 라메 군들이 자스도 또지 라메기 베지 토멘틱스 총보다 람사지 니즈르 토멘틱스 총보다 람사 오 다디 네 사자 대답에 총보데 쳐로 대주다 라마 대주레베 가르소 야고민도 대주 사제베 고유유체네베 교와 개바게 체네 에메 리실다 곰치나마도 다 리직인데 웬베 내질레 공가치나마도 용사 말했세 에네베 가르소에 교와 개바게 아니 믹스드 제바게 된제 체네 딱 간다르지 고치나 미투베 자와든데 제바이나 된제베 미디에네 곰 람도 롱투 말했어 곰베 타교투 말했어 이 디준세나 되네 가다르 가르쇼에 아주 미상보시 체네 가다르 토마르 토마르 가리네미네 라마 상이 가르치 비냐 소소에게 에네베 다신 리버베 다신 제 댄사베 슈글레 아니 미르지 마소네베 슝상보다 라게 예베 지가 토안에 데데체네베 라마 단 지딩 토안에 셰베네 슝상보다 라게 예베 토 치타 링보 딘데지기 토안에 땡고래 아니 추역 돈 제시 먹자요 단 돈은 미시 상보지를 주고 다 아무도다 다 좋았지만
So finally,
not finally but first finally
so,
yeah
and
this is
in essence, one should have a very completely the wholesome person, that is the keeper of the practice of meditation. Wholesome person in the sense of person
good
who is
person,
accountable.
good human being.
No.
Good human being.
A good human being who has the quality of accountability and sort of being anchored in, him or herself. In that, because sometimes there's a tendency that initially when somebody approaches a spiritual master, and there will be all kinds of the emotions surging up, and in connection with the relationship with one's dear and near ones, some change happens, and that causes certain other extreme emotions surging up, and then one thinking, well, the way things are in samsara, all that is left to do is just take it to the mountains and, seal in oneself and there remain a lifelong sort of hermit. And so just a matter of some small circumstances, thinking that one has come to make the biggest decision or drawn the biggest conclusion in one's life, and it is quite evident the way that one made that decision, sort of the spur of moment, what have you, and that you are not going to make it, through. So from that point of view, that of course initially one has choice as to what kind of teacher one wants to rely on. One has also the responsibility to examine and what have you. But having done so, and then one should be accountable. That even generally also we talk about a characteristic of a good human being is that you can last the distance, and that you are accountable. So there is and in the practice of meditation, what is important is that you are a good human being in the sense of accountability, and that you can actually last the decision instead of just making decisions that be impulsive because of some something that is churned up by a certain upheaval of emotions.
다 타마타마디다. 타마타마들의 양의 치치에 디나로래야. 치치에 니슈 정이 받으래샤. 니슈 정이 받대다 니슈 적순 받이. 조회는 시 다도 상계게 마도왕게 탐에 코르게. 동에 무트메베 심제라 수면이지 규래 개버쇼. 수면이지 제야 망가베 지류고 동对제버샤. 소주 그서 차야람서된 자면이지 것도 권버쇼스. 아들 마음 제버더니 주산 디긴 주도야이. 텔레야네 곰지 칠레데 가르잖아. 곰지 칠레디 닝지레스. 아주 곰지들 곰 망보지 잡네다 디 주도여버데 안 졸라 닝지 관에 팬다버차다 현도 주버차 텔레 현도 규베 차와시 가솔이야 가르쳐야지 조야베 인두스탄 디준세나 데네 아니 곰지 뉴버버디 곰지 칠레베 가르쳐야 디 닝지 르제 르밤 닝지 자도 샤토바 드리지 난과의 개침을 또 수야이.
So now turning to verse 22 and 23, although being's nature is always Buddha, not realizing it, we wander in endless samsara. May unbearable compassion arise in us for all beings who suffer endlessly, the display of unbearable compassion is unceasing. Within that affection, its empty nature arises nakedly. May we cultivate this integrated path without error, constantly throughout day and night. And so along this line, finally, the resulting activity of meditation is compassion. And so once one has practiced meditation, so that one has to make the compassion be the keeper of the activity of the meditation. Make the compassion the keeper or the one who safeguards the activity of the meditation, so that what manifests as the activity is compassion. And if that is not the result, if it is not benefiting others, then what is it that any other result are we looking for? So from that point of view, that making it the source of the strengthening and enforcing the activity that is manifesting in the form of compassion towards the benefit of others, as also pointed out by the verses.
다 디젤에 파징이 고는 마지막 차장 된 사람 가서로 룽게 소르제베 당기 차장 되면서 차장지만 돼 엔디쇼데 사람이다 제르지 라야요서 랍자선 디 용구마다 제가 용구마래 고르베 제가 디스가라 하르도 추주 구바신자도다 네 당연히 제르지 럽다 되게 진다.
So since His Holiness has not read this out uninterruptedly, and also as a way of giving you the reading transmission, His Holiness will read through, and then we will conclude.
Conclude. Thank you.